time for an intro. Breaking news. Europeans are in trouble, as they always are. Today, Trump just gave this speech, and he said words that echoed throughout the world. It's not our war. He is obviously, in my opinion, probably going to be referring to Ukraine in this one. So Zelenskyy, 100% cooked. I don't know if any of you have been keeping up with the drama, but there's a bit of a Russia-Ukraine drama going on right now. It's pretty insane. It's been going on for a while. Apparently no one wants to actually make peace, except for the Orange Man. But don't worry, because the liberals are going to do their absolute best to make sure Orange Man sounds as evil as possible as he tries to make peace. Now, realistically, not our war is accurate. However, the meltdowns regarding this speech are everywhere. So as someone that loves meltdowns, we are going to be watching his speech. I have to see what he has to say. Everyone's been losing their mind over this. This literally just happened, so lock in. Let's see what we got.
Additionally, we talked about trade, and will definitely...
This is Trump with the Norwegian Prime Minister. I don't know how to pronounce his name, so I won't.
Along very well on trade. We'll do something, but I think the Prime Minister knows that over the years, the United States has been very good to a lot of people.
True. Dude, Canada is so cooked. Canada is coping so hard. I can't believe Orange Man bad. Orange Man so bad. This is so sad. He's so bad. And that's everyone in Canada right now. There's currently an election in Canada, and it's essentially the media coverage is, well, Pierre Poilievre has some good things to say, but Carney hates Trump more. Vote for him. And Canadians are buying it. Those naive little bitches.
It's time for us to benefit also.
This is coming from a Canadian, by the way. All right.
So we're going to have a good relationship on trade, and we discussed other things also. But Mr. Prime Minister, it's an honor to have you at the White House. Thank you very much.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. This year is 200 years since the first immigration from Norway to the U.S. We come here early in your term. Appreciate that you take time. We have highlighted that very close cooperation. We are allies. We look after security in the north, in the Arctic. A lot of confidence between our services.
Together strong, the North remembers, build that wall, all those things, you know what I'm saying?
We have discussed in detail the war in Ukraine. I have saluted the President for his initiative to make progress towards something that can be a ceasefire.
I'm glad that people are actually saying that. Trump will go out and he'll be like, not my war, never would have started if I was president, war should have never happened, you know, do like that whole thing. And then the world comes together and be like, Ree! I can't believe he's not just purely supporting Ukraine and giving them billions more dollars. Ree! I can't believe he has Zelenskyy to say thank you for billions of dollars in aid. Ree! That's essentially, literally, the way this has been going. Now, Zelenskyy, I'll give you my hot take on all of this. Russia wants to conquer Ukraine, so they don't want to make peace right now. Ukraine wants nuclear weapons, or, well, they're not going to fight. They're going to make sure that the war never ends. So Russia's not going to let that happen. So it's kind of at a stalemate where essentially you got Russia wanting to take over Ukraine and Ukraine not wanting to end the war without nukes, which Russia will never agree with. And the war will never end because no one gets everything that they want. Unfortunately, that is one of the rules of life. Unfortunately. Trump wants there to be peace because he's saying bullets flying, hitting bodies, people dying, thousands of them, beautiful spires all in rubble, you know, the things that he says. And he's right about all of them. And still somehow the media is like, Trump, warmonger.
And an end to this terrible conflict. It is a complex picture, but it needs political will and push. And we have exchanged ideas on that. And then I think the president and his team have been open to hear our perspectives. And on trade, we have also emphasized that we can benefit, both of us, by trading. We can be complementary and we can find good solutions. But first of all, I appreciate, Mr. President, the spirit and the tone of this conversation, which has been a confirmation of a very strong partnership.
Thank you very much.
But one could wipe the other out. Oh, incredible point, chat. And why does that involve me? However, more importantly, there was recently, I don't know if I'll be able to find this, Zelenskyy made a wild statement. So he made a pretty wild statement, Mr. Zelenskyy, where essentially he's kind of blackmailing America into entering the battle. So this was Trump's tweet.
Zelenskyy is boasting on the front page of the Wall Street Journal, as I showed you.
Yeah, you have to see this Wall Street Journal page. It's insane.
Shouldn't you be looking into doing that too? It is the front page of the Wall Street Journal today. Zelenskyy resists U.S. peace proposal. Ukrainian president says Kiev won't recognize Russian control over Crimea. This is not good. This is bad news.
Yeah. So essentially, by him making a statement like that, what he is saying is, we are not going to stop this war until we get nukes, and Russia will not is evil, and there's nothing we can do about it. So realistically, What he is essentially saying is, if peace doesn't happen, we will fight until Russia takes Kiev. And if Trump is the president, while Russia takes Kiev, he will never live that down. And it is essentially some sort of crazy emotional blackmail to make sure Trump intervenes. It's an interesting perspective to have, for sure.
I'm gonna read the entire Truth Social post of Crimea.
So, you know, classic Trump post. Ukrainian President Vladimir Zelenskyy boasting on the front page Wall Street Journal, Ukraine will not legally recognize the occupation of Crimea. There's nothing to talk about here. This statement is very harmful to the peace negotiations with Russia, because Russia's never going to give Crimea back. It's not going to happen. And that Crimea was lost years ago under the auspices of President Barack Hussein Obama, and it is not even a point of discussion. No one is asking Zelenskyy to recognize Crimea as Russian territory, but if he wants Crimea, why didn't they fight for it 11 years ago and was handed over to Russia without a shot being fired? The area also houses, for many years before the Obama handover, major Russia submarine bases. It's inflammatory statements like Zelensky's that makes it so difficult to settle this war. He has nothing to boast about. The situation for Ukraine is dire. He could have peace or he could fight for another... Well, he can die. He can die in battle. He can fight for another 3 years before losing the whole country. I have nothing to do with Russia, but I have much to do with wanting to save on average 5,000 Russian and Ukrainian soldiers a week who are dying for no reason whatsoever. The statement made by Zelenskyy today will do nothing but prolong the killing field. Nobody wants that. We are very close to a deal, but the man with no cards to play should stop now. Finally, get it done. I look forward to being able to help Ukraine and Russia get out of this complete and total mess that would have never started if I were president. And realistically, there's a lot of nuance, but Zelenskyy is doing everything in his power to not let the war end unless he gets some sort of massive deal regarding him getting nuclear weapons, him being invited into NATO, him getting Crimea back, and all of those things are things Russia would never accept. Russia is never accepting any of that stuff. Bro's gonna need to activate his Trump card to get out of this one. But realistically, both sides don't really want peace, and I think Trump is so fed up with everyone. And this could be really bad, but great content.
Appreciate it. Any questions?
All right, time for the press to argue like chickens and not make any sense. All right, so we got to have some sort of game to play. Every time the press asks a bad question, we should drink a shot so that we could die before this video ends. Definitely subscribe for more slow suicide.
Yes.
Mr. President, have you spoken about the tariff that you want to impose on Norway? Is there a chance that you...
We spoke about trade, and we understand each other very well. I think we'll have no problem.
You think that we can get an agreement?
I think we'll have no problem whatsoever with Norway.
Mr.
Discuss a possible visit to Norway? Did you discuss a possible visit for President Trump to
We
Norway?
didn't, but I love it. I mean, I've been there, and it is a beautiful place.
I love Norway.
They have-
Norway.
You know, he is receiving us early in the term. He's welcome to visit Norway. We would like to have him, and it will
What are you gonna
be
say?
emphasizing this strong friendship.
A little bit of glaze goes a long way. Good job, Mr. Norway President Man.
Norway has been a staunch supporter of Ukraine
Yes.
since the Russian invasion in 2022. Has something been discussed here today that may have altered your views on things?
No, we want to, very simply, I have no allegiance to anybody. I have allegiance to saving lives, and I want to save a lot of lives. A lot of young people, mostly young people. It's the war. It's the soldiers. And if we can do that. Also, as you know, I got started because the money that's been spent on this war.
Yeah, that's what it always comes back to, the money. Hundreds of billions of dollars to Ukraine, and for what? Dude, we need a Doge audit. It'll be awesome. I would love to see what's there.
Is insane. It should have never happened. And it would have never happened if I were president.
How does he fits that into every single speech. It's incredible. This war never would have happened if I was president. Never would have started. I'm a madman with a big red button. You're gonna start a war when a madman has a button?
But Biden spent $350 billion on this, and it's a shame. And that's what got me involved. And then I looked at, and I see it's horrible. It's a killing field. 5,000 soldiers a week on average.
That's crazy.
And we want to stop that. We both want to stop that for a lot of reasons, but I would say that is my number one reason.
Do you think Russia that we will...
Trump just calmly saying, listen, I don't really care about Zelenskyy, but there's innocent people dying on the field. They matter. You don't. I don't care about your plans.
Get Russia to accept a deal that also Ukraine and Europe is willing to
I think so, yeah. I do. I believe they will accept, and I think we're going to get this over with. I hope so soon.
I don't know, they've been saying soon for a long time. Trump's been saying soon, and no one's been actually moving. Not even Trump's fault. It's literally not even Trump's fault, but it's not happening.
Go ahead.
Continue to lack support from NATO allies in your goal of obtaining Greenland. How will you
Bro, jumping from Russia invading Ukraine to buying Greenland. Hell yeah, dude. Hell yeah, bro. All right, this is gonna work. This is gonna work.
proceed if you don't?
We are going to be arresting judges. If the judges are retard, they will be arrested and sent straight to Greenland.
Get that support.
Well, Greenland's going to be interesting, but that's for another day. I think we need that for international peace. And if you don't have that, I think it's a big threat to our world. So I think Greenland's very important for international peace. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mr. President, this morning in a Truth Social post, you used the words, Vladimir, stop. That seemed like a slightly different message, a personal message. What is your level of frustration with President Putin?
I hate when the media, it's always this guy. This guy does it every single time he asks a question. He's like, I noticed you said Vladimir stop. That was a really intimate way you called him. It's almost like you referred to him like he's something of a friend. But anyway, my real question is something else now that I got that little piece of propaganda into the hearts of the people. Hell yeah, dude.
I didn't like last night. I wasn't happy with it. And we're in the midst of talking peace and missiles were fired. And I was not happy with it. That's what I meant. And that's, you know, what it is.
And like he actually said what he meant. Stop reading into it too deeply, man. Trying to twist the narrative in every possible way. Did you and Vladimir ever give each other under the table handies every now and again? I don't know. Is that the kind of relationship you had with Vladimir? Like, come on, dude. Stop. Stop. No one ever asked Biden these questions. And Hunter Biden was so much more involved with the Russians than Trump literally ever was. Like, it was such a crazy hoax.
I assume that's what you mean. Yeah.
If the bombs keep falling, will you consider additional sanctions toward Russia, or what will you do if President Putin...
I'd rather...
He's not gonna... You can't answer these questions because it's a negotiation. All right?
Answer that question in a week. I want to see if we can have a deal. No reason to answer it now, but I won't be happy. Let me put it that way. Things.
You don't like me when I'm angry. I'm like the Hulk, but I'm large and orange.
Mr. President, you're not putting more pressure on Russia. I know a lot of Europeans.
Putting a lot of
He's
pressure.
putting a lot of pressure. What are you talking about? He's literally telling them to make peace all the time. What do you mean a lot of pressure? What is it? Do they want him to start a war with Russia that badly? The answer is no. That was a fake question. I just asked you. I asked you a rhetorical question. You can't spell retard without rhetorical. To be honest, I'll be real. That's not why this question was asked. This question was obviously asked because it's trying to imply to the American people listening to this that he's not putting any pressure on Russia, which is not true.
You don't know what pressure I'm putting on Russia. They're dealing. You have no idea what pressure I'm putting on Russia. We're putting a lot of pressure.
Can you maybe tell us that?
We're putting a lot
I
on
tell
Russia.
you, it's a negotiation.
Russia knows that, and some people that are close to it know, or he wouldn't be talking right now. The Prime Minister understands that better than anybody. He wouldn't be talking right now. He's talking, and we're putting a lot of pressure. I think he wants to make a deal. We're going to find out very soon, but it takes two to tango, and you have to have Ukraine want to make a deal too. And they're being hit very hard, and I do believe they want to make a deal.
Mr. President, you said that the Ukraine have to give some territory to win peace, among them Crimea. Do you stand by that?
Crimea was taken from Ukraine in Obama's term. I don't know why this keeps coming up when the #1 goal right now should be stopping the war. Ukraine is really not in a position to bargain for Crimea. That was never like even part of the negotiations. But Zelenskyy decides, nah, we need everything. And it's gonna make it much harder to make peace, for sure.
I know that the former NATO General Secretary today has told you that he does not agree and he believes in territorial integrity of the Ukraine. How will you deal with that with your allies? And do you stand by that Ukraine have to give...
Former Secretary General happens to be right here, so they can't put words in his mouth. He's been a great...
I love the little media cookage now and again. It's like, you're trying to put words into the mouth of a guy who's literally sitting right here. Nice attempt there, bozo. Well, the media's extra retarded today.
He's been a great general, frankly. It was because that's what you are. Really, you're a general. But he's been a great Secretary General. We had a tremendous relationship, very successful. And I think he could speak for himself. He's right here.
But do you still agree that Ukraine have to give some territory away to win peace?
Well, it depends what territory. They've been fighting. They've lost a lot of territory. And we'll do the best we can. Working with Ukraine, we'll do the best we can. But they lost a lot of territory.
You gotta realize every compromise means that no side is getting everything that they want. And this peace would be a compromise, obviously. Like, it's so naive. And like this, I think, is like the actual NPC talking points that you see on Twitter and stuff. It's like, but Russia invaded Ukraine. Ree! There's no other context required. Russia bad, Ukraine good. Context? Who needs any of that? Russia bad. Everyone should come together, expel Russia's forces, tell them no, put them in the corner, make them stand with their thumb up their ass in the corner, staring at the wall. Like, are we like, that's not real. That's not real life. Oh my God. These people need to wake up for a second and recognize that this isn't like preschool.
When you say Crimea, that was handed over during a president named Barack Hussein Obama.
I love how we started calling him Barack Hussein Obama. No one calls him that. Only Trump. Only Trump calls him Barack Hussein Obama. No one else does that. Dude's giving him the Albus Percival Wulfric Brian Dumbledore treatment whenever he refers to him because his middle name is a little bit sus. Something of a sus little name. When you think drone strikes and you think Hussein Obama, I don't know, it paints something of a picture.
Had nothing to do with me, Crimea. That was 11 years ago with Obama.
Crimea River. I'm sure someone made that joke before. There's no way I'm the first person to make the joke.
And they made a decision. There wasn't a bullet fired. There was no fighting. There was no anything. They just handed it over. Now they say, well, can you get it back? I think that's going to be a very difficult thing to do. That was given by Barack Obama when he was president, not by Donald Trump.
Thank you, Mr. President.
He refers to himself in third person. Dude, even in his tweet here, like the state of Zelenskyy today will do nothing but prolong the killing field. He puts it in quotes because this is something that he said. The man with no cards to play. This guy puts his own phrases in quotes in his own tweets. How awesome is that? That's crazy. That's nuts.
Peace proposal that you put on the table, it's a 30-day ceasefire proposal. Your national security team presented it to both Ukraine and Russia. 2 months ago, Ukraine agreed to that ceasefire proposal. Immediately, Russia has not. And my question is Russia the obstacle to peace based upon that, just getting to that 30-day ceasefire?
I don't think so. I think that they both want peace right now. They're ready to do something. We'll see what happens. Complicated, very complicated. But I think they are both very much looking to make a deal. Marco, what would you say?
Well, first of all, what was put before our partners was options.
Marco, he was ready. He was like literally ready to the torch to get past him.
To discuss about things that it would take to end a war. This war is endable. Both sides just have to agree to it. We've shown them a pathway forward. We've discussed those ideas. It was a good meeting yesterday. There'll be good meetings over the weekend. We've shown them the finish line. We need both of them to say yes. But what happened last night with those missile strikes should remind everybody of why this war needs to end. It's horrible those missiles landed. What's even worse is there are today people that were alive yesterday that are not alive today.
All right, that's a statement of all time.
Because this war continues, and the president wants to stop it. And everyone should be thanking the president for being a peacemaker and trying.
But no, Trump warmonger, evil Nazi Hitler too. That's who he is. Yep, absolutely. Bill Maher, leftist guy, met Donald Trump. All the other leftists are eating him alive. Can't believe you'd meet Hitler too. We call him Neo-Hitler in these parts. War bad, hot take. All right, like, come on, guys.
Trying to save lives. That's what we're trying to do here. It's not our war. We didn't start it, as you know. But we're trying to end the dying. We're trying to end the destruction.
Not our war. Everyone's quoting this line. Not our war. It's crazy. People are so mad over this, and the people that are mad, unfortunately for them, they retarded.
And we've shown the path forward. We can see the finish line, but both of them have to get there. We're going to do everything we can to help them get there, but they have to ultimately say yes.
And we are using a lot of pressure on both. You know, if you think we're just in there because we're nice people, and we are nice people, but we're using a lot of pressure on both.
What concessions, Mr. President, and to your national security team, what concessions has Russia offered up thus far to get to the point where you're closer to peace?
Stopping the war, taking the whole country. Pretty big concession.
He's right, though. Everyone's freaking out that he's a warmonger and he's letting Russia get away with it, but they're not living in reality. He's right. That is a concession. Ukraine can't win this war. It's not winnable, okay, for Ukraine. Unless it actually becomes World War III, everyone gets involved, and then no one's happy. All right, once nukes get involved, no one is happy. But as it stands right now, he's completely right. Bro.
If you are going to take down, what do you want Norway to buy more of from the US?
To buy more? Well, you don't need snow.
Yeah, that's Canada's biggest export. Canada exports snow. We got that one covered.
Skis, you don't need ski champions either, right? You have a lot of them. We just want to keep the relationship the way it is. We've had a great relationship. I think now maybe closer than ever, but we've had a great relationship with Norway. I think just keep it the way it is, kid. You can't do better.
Listen, Norway, I was watching this anime, Vinland Saga. It's pretty cool and based. Think you can convince Denmark to maybe give me Greenland?
Really? Not even by, say...
Well, if they want to give us some additional concessions, that's okay. You can't do much better. Yes?
President, you've had a long meeting with Norway today. You said that Norway is doing a lot of things right, but on the Ukraine, if I can ask both you and the Prime Minister, did you find common ground today on Ukraine and the peace plan?
Totally. It's totally common ground. The Prime Minister can speak.
That's the crazy thing. I feel like everyone in Europe doesn't have the balls to say that Trump is right, because the moment you admit Trump is right, the retards that have like the Trump derangement syndrome, all those guys are just going to start freaking out and screaming. Because the truth is, in regards to this Russia-Ukraine war, Trump is the only person actually living in reality. They want to be the good guys on social media. They completely caved to the NPCs, and they're like, yeah, we'll just give billions more dollars to Ukraine. That'll definitely save the world. Giving billions more dollars to Ukraine is not going to stop the war. It'll just keep the war going forever. I mean, realistically, it means Russia won't be able to conquer Ukraine as easily. However, it's just going to keep the war going. You need some sort of peace to happen. And the only person actually willing to say that we want peace, yes, that means Russia doesn't lose. That just means there's concessions on both sides. It's the Orange Man. I think everyone realistically agrees with him. No one wants to say it. Never would have started if he was president.
About it, but I can just say he wants to see people stop dying more than anything else, and he'd like to see it end. He's gonna help us end it.
Mr. President, can I say that to move towards an end of this war, U.S. engagement is critical, and President Trump made that possible. That is clear. That is obvious. It's really happening now.
But whenever someone's in the room with Trump, they're all full glaze, and then they leave the room, they go to the press, and they're like, "Orange Hitler, orange retard."
The important thing is that both parties have to know that they have to deliver, and they have
Again, not hating on Norway guy. I don't know anything about him.
Feel the pressure to deliver. Ukraine is under attack. They are defending themselves. Lives are being lost. And we believe very firmly that there needs to be a ceasefire, the initiative taken by the US some time ago. It needs to be respected. And then to move on to something which both parties can own. That is the complicated part in such a dramatic...
Because Ukraine wants Crimea back, for example, which was given to Russia in 2014. And Russia's like, it's not happening, brother. So you're at a bit of an issue, something of an impasse.
War. And here
we are gonna build a great wall between Russia and Ukraine, and Mexico will pay for that wall.
I believe Europeans and Americans working together, as we do much closer now. And I salute the team of President Trump of being, open in that process. We had a good discussion on this today, and then we have to move on, and we cannot lose time because this is too much drama happening. One thing is people losing their lives, but it is a bad thing for Europe, and it's a bad thing for the world to having such a broad conflict going on. It can have ramifications far beyond Ukraine.
Because if other countries get involved, it's World War III. Everyone's involved. I mean, they were finding Chinese soldiers and North Korean soldiers in the Russian army. This could be like a really big problem if Trump was, honestly, if Biden was president and just kept the war machine going. Oh my God, Trump really the president of peace. It's crazy. What's going on? It's almost like the media was wrong about everything.
Mr. President, follow-up. Mr. President, if I forgot my question. I wanted to ask about...
It's all right. That happens to
It happens sometimes, yeah. No, Mr. President, I wanted to ask about the...
I love how the reporter guy says, I forgot my question, and Trump is laughing because that might be the first honest thing that came out of a reporter's mouth all day.
Oh, well, actually, Zelenskyy has said that he wants more Patriot missiles.
No, duh! Zelenskyy wants. Tell me the most common two words ever in the Ukrainian negotiations.
So far, has been no response from the United States. If you, and the United States, decides to pull out...
President Kamala Harris sitting there be like, I think in order to stop the war of Russia-Ukraine, we need to give Iran nukes. Anyway, we dodged a bullet with that. We dodged a bullet with that one.
Negotiating for peace, trying to broker peace. Does that also mean a no on Patriot missiles, a no on sharing intelligence with Ukraine?
Let's see what happens. I think we're going to make a deal. And if we make a deal, that'll be wonderful. We won't have to worry about your question. You can ask that question in 2 weeks, and we'll see. But I think we're getting very close. The Prime Minister feels the same way, and we'll hopefully not have to answer that.
Mr. President,
Norway is the third country to be officially invited to the White House after today.
I love that they're calling it Liberation Day. I love that they're doing that.
Why did you invite Norway so soon to the White House?
Because I like them.
Nice, nice. Stupid question.
And I like your Prime Minister, and I like the way your government runs. And I respect the King. He's highly respected in Norway. It's a great thing. Not an easy thing to do. He's done a great job. Yeah.
Would you like an invitation to visit the King?
Absolutely. You get me that invitation.
I just told the president he's welcome to visit.
Oh my god, when they stand in front of him, they're all glaze. Infinite glaze. King of Norway reference. Hell yeah, dude.
You said before that you like...
Dude, I love how Trump is selling Trump 2028 merch right now. Like, I'm telling you, beat the rush. Beat the rush. Buy the Trump 2028 merch now. It's only going to go up in value. And cryo Trump happens. I'm saying invitation received.
Petroleum.
Bro, just one king meeting another or something. Ha ha.
I'm wondering if that has been up for discussion today, the way that we have structured our whether...
Well, this fund was created in the late 1990s to save for future generations the income from oil and gas. Norwegians should continue to work as hard, dedicated, innovate and move forward despite having these incomes, which we happen to be in the period of our history where we can harvest, and we have transferred that into investments. Half of them, by the way, here in the United States. So I think this is a model which we have been able to explore. If we can share experiences, and we do with our colleagues in the US.
It's almost like a free market is better for everybody or something, but don't tell that to the rest of the world that has tariffs on the United States, because unfortunately that would destroy the worldview that America's bullying everyone.
Never copy this one-to-one, but there can be techniques and way of working that we have used in organizing our fund. Jens Stoltenberg was the finance minister when the first dollar entered that fund, so he is a safe hand to have as a finance minister today. What are you saying?
No, and as you said, Mr. Prime Minister, we are ready to sit down with the US to also work with them on if they want to establish a sovereign wealth fund, because we have a good experience with our fund, and I think that...
Look at all these guys. Look at all of them. They're all standing there trying their best, literally fighting over Donald Schmeat right now. Look at that. It's crazy. All he needed was a little bit of a liberation day, and all the fish start biting. That's crazy.
One example of how we work together with the United States is that half of the fund, close to $1 trillion US, are invested in the United States, mainly in equity, but also some in fixed income, including government bonds. So this is an expression of trust in the United States, expressed by the strong investment of the sovereign wealth fund. Then just briefly on Ukraine, since it was mentioned, we had a very good and extensive discussion about Ukraine, the path forward to peace. And as the Prime Minister said, we commend the US for pushing forward to try to find a negotiated solution. At the same time, we need to continue to support Ukraine, and therefore I know that Norway...
I mean, again, Ukraine is absolutely, in my opinion, Ukraine is the victim here. I know that they did a lot of things to potentially poke and prod Russia and stuff. Absolutely, it's not lost on me. However, I do think that they are absolutely the victim, especially the average citizen of Ukraine. Realistically, he is saying some things that I don't know if Trump would be happy he's saying.
Has actually
Look at his face. This dude went full bulldog on this guy.
Tripled the military support to Ukraine, and this year we will allocate close to $8 billion US to Ukraine. That will strengthen them and also their hand on the negotiating table.
I may add to that, if there's a peace, and there will be a peace, we have a common responsibility in securing democratic Ukraine for the future. And the best...
That would be nice. There's been no freaking elections in Ukraine in a long time. Long time, no elections. 0 elections there. Dictator Zelenskyy not saying thank you.
Security guarantee they can have is the ability to defend themselves, and we are investing in that.
Trump is just, he's using Operation Let Them Talk. Bro's not getting involved. He knows that he needs to be as impartial as possible for the negotiations. He can let these guys yap.
Mr. President, as it relates to tariffs, Mr. President, when you unveiled your reciprocal tariffs on April the 2nd, the tariff rate for Norway was 15%. Based upon your conversations that you've had today today with the Prime Minister. Do you see that tariff rate coming down from what you proposed?
Okay, real question. Are the tariffs just an elaborate business strategy? An elaborate way to get other things that they want?
Weeks ago.
Well, they have a great fund of $2 trillion. It's a big fund. And they don't have any debt. So I think they'd probably be willing to pay us more than that, I hope.
Oh, no, look at his face. Oh, he's looking at it. Wait, what? You mean you're not taking down the tariffs? Wait, what? Was it just a bargaining chip? No. Dude, oh my god. Dude looks like Severus Snape right now. Oh, he's just like laughing, and this dude looks like a living corpse. Bro turned into Smeagol. He aged 4 years in that one sentence.
Mr. President,
Yes.
in 2018, your former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo called for an end to Russian occupation of Crimea. Why has this administration changed its stance on territorial concessions for Crimea?
Well, the war started. It would have never started.
Never would have started.
This is a war that is a horrible. All wars are horrible. This one is in particular bad.
Very bad.
And I don't know that you can ever say there's going to be a winner to this because so many lives have been lost. Not only soldiers, I mean, a lot of lives have been lost. I think that we want to do one very simple thing. It would have never happened if I were president. Zero chance.
That's the third time he said it in the same speech.
And it didn't. You know, people say, how do you know that? Number one, it didn't happen. We never even discussed it. I would talk to Putin about it. It was the apple of his eye. You know, Ukraine was the apple of Putin's eye, but there was never even a thought that he'd go in.
Yeah, and then they replaced Donald Trump in 2020 with a sack of potatoes held together by spit and duct tape. All right, Biden. And a walking corpse, Biden. The crypt keeper was helping Biden with, you know, handling the press and stuff like that. They got a necromancer for Biden every time he wanted to give a speech. Obviously, that dude is not some giga threat against Ukraine, against Russia from invading Ukraine. And the craziest thing is, Biden literally said in his speech that if Russia only makes a small incursion, then it's not a problem. Oh my god. Why did the administration change the policy from walking zombie? Joseph Biden. Bro had a facelift to look less dead, and it didn't work.
I think he understood that I would not be happy if he did. And it was only when I got out, and you know, when you mentioned what happened to Ukraine.
He said minor incursion because he sniffs minors. True. True, that's probably why he said it.
Years ago under President Obama and a vice president that was also president later, unfortunately for this country. What happened is large chunks of land were given up, and it was called Crimea. And that was a big thing. That was a big moment. But this is
from what I understand, the majority of people in Crimea want to be Russian. And from what I understand, I mean, I could be wrong, that could be propaganda, but that is definitely the impression that I got as a non-expert from across the sea. However, I do also recognize that no matter what actually does happen, Russia and Ukraine will not find peace without both of them conceding to some degree. And the only person who actually has the balls to say it is Trump. Everyone else is just sitting there and they're just, you know. No, war bad, Russia bad, fun Ukraine forever.
War. This is Biden's war. This is a war that Biden was president when this war happened, but I
think that's the leverage that Zelenskyy is trying to put on Trump, because every time Zelenskyy says we're not stopping the war, it just makes it more and more likely that Russia will take the capital of Ukraine, that Russia will kill so many more people. And if that happens under Trump's presidency, obviously that looks awful for him. Obviously, it looks like Trump made a massive failure. And I think Zelenskyy is willing to basically be stubborn and engage in a war, knowing that Trump will have to get involved for his own sake. And I think that's what he's playing at right now. Trump has to stop this war before it becomes an absolute disaster, because otherwise it'll look terrible for Trump. And he knows that. So he's trying, in my opinion, to make sure that it becomes so dire. And it's almost like he's putting his own citizens as bargaining chips here to emotionally blackmail Trump into, you know, making things end better for him. At least that's the perspective that I've seen some people say, and it makes sense. God damn.
To put out the fire, and I think we'll be successful. And if we do, we're going to save.
And Zelenskyy absolutely wants to start World War III. That's not even a question. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
A lot of lives. Otherwise, and
they want to join NATO. They want NATO to get involved. If NATO is fighting Russia, that's World War III. And Zelenskyy absolutely wants that to happen because he's doing what he can to keep Ukraine unique. Zelenskyy forgets, however, that Trump isn't Biden. He's way more orange and also alive.
Prime Minister had a statement. He said, this is just a point in time. We're very lucky because this is a point, and if this doesn't happen, this could go on for a long time.
Mr. President, will you have meetings with other world leaders when you're in Rome, sir?
Future Democrat president?
I don't think he will. I think he wants to make peace. I think he wants to end it, and I feel pretty confident of that. But we're gonna know pretty soon.
NATO versus Russia would not be World War III. Russia would get rolled in a few weeks. All right, chat. You guys are taking words that I say way too literally. If NATO goes up against Russia, then Russia is gonna ally with North Korea and China, and then it would be Russia, North Korea, China versus NATO, and there's nukes. And if there's nukes, nothing gets rolled easy. Okay, if there's nukes involved, then World War III will be with nukes, and World War IV will be with rocks and sticks. Okay, it's not good.
You're on your first date.
Will you have meetings with other world leaders when you're in Rome?
Yes, I will.
Which leaders do you want to meet, sir?
Well, I'd like to meet them all. That would be nice.
Gotta
I'd like
catch 'em
to take
all,
care of
baby.
all of them, but we have many of them there, and they all want to meet. And they want to meet about trade. And we are making some great inroads and great deals. You might want to speak about that, Mr. Secretary.
We had a very successful bilateral meeting with the Republic of South Korea today. We
met South Korea in public. We told them, keep Johnny Somali, whatever it takes.
be moving faster than I thought, and we will be talking technical terms as early as next week as we reach an agreement on understanding as soon as next week. So South Koreans came early. They came with their A game, and we will see if they follow through on that.
President Trump, you're around your first 100.
Do you think that you deserve the Nobel Peace Prize if you manage to...
Do I deserve the Nobel? Maybe for the Abraham Accords. I don't want to get ahead.
He's not even wrong. Like, he's laughing. He's not wrong.
Of myself on this one, but they say for the Abraham Accords, and by the way, speaking of that, we're going to be filling it up. A lot of countries want to come into the Abraham Accords. You know, we have 4, and Biden did nothing on that one too.
Yeah, which is unbelievable because Trump literally paved the way in his first term for the Abraham Accords to continue. The Abraham Accords, for those of you unaware, it's like a peace treaty between, you know, Saudi Arabia and Israel and like a lot of Middle Eastern places. So he's really trying to make the Abraham Accords include a lot more countries, which would be crazy. It would be fantastic. And the fact that Biden did nothing about it is insane.
It's the same 4, but they're great countries and they were brave doing it, and it's worked out very well. And we're going to be filling up the Abraham Accords. They're going to be, I think, filling it up.
Big countries like their Pokemon.
Very rapidly.
Mr. President.
Could you say something about that?
There's great, enormous opportunity to grow the Abraham Accords, but I would just point to one thing. Of all the leaders in the world today, no leader is working harder to prevent wars or end them than President Trump is right now.
Damn.
That's why we're talking to Iran.
He's
That's
right.
why we're
He's
engaged with
literally
Ukraine
right.
and Russia. It's
everyone in the media is a piece of garbage. All right, they're actual trash. The way they flame this man constantly without talking about a single good thing that he actually does.
Desire to prevent these wars from breaking out and to end the ones that exist already. And again, I just think it's tremendous for our country to be led by a president who desires to bring peace and establish peace and protect peace. So
I mean, literally,
it's hard work.
Not even exaggerating. Not even exaggerating. The fact that the media made like a whole spiel out of Donald Trump. I can't believe Donald Trump is deporting a terrorist. No, the poor terrorist. No, Ray. But they're not willing to talk about the fact that A, during his first term, not a single war started, which is crazy. First president that no war started in his term. That's insane. And second of all, and this is also important, essentially his entire presidency so far was the guy, literally, unironically trying to make as much peace as possible with as many countries as he could.
Mr. President,
You know, Marco just mentioned something that maybe we should talk about for just a second, if we could, Mr. Prime Minister. And you're involved in it too, because you've been involved in the world and peace. But I think we're doing very well with respect to Iran, and we're having very serious meetings. And there are only 2 options. And
yeah, he again, that's another media meltdown, was about Iran. Essentially, he said that, listen, Iran, either you sign that you're never having nuclear weapons or we're gonna bomb the hell out of you. Listen, I mean, it gets results. What do you say? Could have Biden, if Biden wouldn't have said that?
One option is not a good option. It's not a good option at all. And I think we're doing very well on an agreement with Iran. But that one, we're doing a lot of things, I will say. But that one is well on its way. We could have a very, very good decision, and a lot of lives will be saved.
Mr. President, on the economy, there was a slowdown as it relates to home sales in the month of March, the slowest pace since 2009. Is that an economic indicator, and perhaps the Treasury Secretary can weigh in on this as well, is that an economic indicator that concerns you about the broader U.S. economy?
No, they had very good numbers on housing today, extremely good numbers, and that's despite interest rates, because, you know, if you look at what happened, everyone said, oh, I said I was going to get prices down. I did. Energy just hit.
Hey, why isn't the media talking about the fact that he got prices down? You know, gas went down. Eggs went down. Where's the media? No, media sleeping.
$1.98 in a couple of states. It's way down. Energy's down, and we're about $64 a barrel. When I came in, and we were looking at $89, $90, $95. And by the way, that helps us solve the war too. Having those energy prices is a big incentive for Russia to also agree with solving the war problem. Groceries are down. When I was with you,
gas is down. Gaslighting all-time high. Have you seen CNN lately? They're defending terrorists now.
2 months ago, you were complaining about eggs. I said, I just got here. I was here for about a week when the press started saying about eggs have gone through the roof. I said, I just got here. Tell me about eggs. And they happened. They went through the roof and you couldn't get them. So we just had a big Easter egg hunt at the White House. Thousands and thousands of eggs. And the price was down 87%. So we did a great job. Housing is doing.
I'm just gonna pat myself on the back because no one else will. The media only reports things that are either untrue or out of context.
Very well. We should lower interest rates. That's the Fed. I hope they lower
I really
it.
feel like Trump needs like one of those one-piece intro recaps where every single time it's like wealth, fame, power, and then it talks about all the things that Trump did for the country that the media doesn't want to talk about.
Interest rates, that's a smart thing to do. Be ahead a little bit, although
So many
already
eggs,
it's a little bit late.
millions of eggs.
But in the end, we just have a great country. We have a very strong country, and we have every other country. I can't think of one country that doesn't want to negotiate a deal. And they either negotiate a deal or we...
Everyone freaking out. Tariffs, bad idea. Tariffs only make it more expensive for the country. You pay the tariffs. How many times have you heard the news saying that? You pay the tariffs, guys. You literally pay the tariffs. Trump says tariffs. Every country that was, you know, literally shit-talking him, they all come to the table. They're all there. All right, let's make a deal. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay, we all want to make a deal. We'll drop our tariffs. We'll drop our tariffs. And then you got other people opening car industries in America again. Car factories are opening. New jobs. Billions of dollars getting poured into the country by companies that want to work in America because they don't want to deal with the tariffs.
Set a deal that we think is fair. Because we don't have to go through all of these. It would be physically impossible. You know, you have so many people that really understand it, which is a very small group of people here. And we are going to, at some point, just set prices for deals. Some will be tariffed. Some treated us very unfairly. They'll be tariffed higher than others. But we've been ripped off for many, many years. The United States has been ripped off like no country probably in the history of the world has been ripped off for 45, 50 years. And countries have gotten rich by doing that with the United States. We've taken care of their militaries, and military is another subject we talk about. We're not going to make that subject to any of the deals, but you know the same countries that I do where we virtually take care of their military.
Canada. Yeah, America's the bad friend. Meanwhile, America was essentially paying for Canada's entire national security forever. But no! Trump bad. Trump bad because he wants Canada to play fair. Trump pays for their military and they tariff 300% tariffs on Trump's imports of meat. Weird how that happens. 51st state getting very rowdy.
And then don't get treated fairly on trade. So the people, and I don't...
The U.S. has been butt-fucked for far too long, and we will now begin the butt-fucking ourselves.
I don't blame those countries. I blame the people that sat at that beautiful desk.
He's right. Gay Dakota, Canada, was looking out for Gay Dakota. Gay Dakota needs to do what's most important for Gay Dakota. And I fully agree with that. And if they were able to trick presidents into making shitty deals for their sake, well, then they just outsmarted the presidents of the United States. Trump actually had the balls to say, you know what, it'll tank the stock market for a couple of days. We're doing this. We are no longer the piggy bank of the world.
Right behind you, because those people didn't do the job for this country, and they let us lose $4 billion a day on trade. We were losing $4 or $5 billion a day on trade when I got here, and now we're going to be much better than breaking even.
Damn.
And we're going to be making $4 or $5 billion trade. So
this is a really good thing, guys.
But I don't blame any country, not the worst of them. We were abused by countries. I blame the president of the United States.
I'm glad that he has the foresight to actually say this. Now, I firmly believe that, whenever I'm talking about Russia, Ukraine specifically, I'm talking from America's perspective. It's not our war. The idea of not funding a war that they, for some reason, don't want to make peace, that's one thing. From Ukraine's perspective, I so understand why they're trying to manipulate every country in the world into giving them billions of dollars. I completely understand it. They're getting invaded by Russia. They want to retain their autonomy. Like, I totally get it. So talking from the Americans' perspective is very different than talking from other countries' perspective. I don't blame Canada for completely, okay, well, I sort of do, but I don't fully blame Canada for taking advantage of the United States. I do blame the United States presidents for letting Canada take advantage of the United States.
States that happened to be sitting when these deals were made. Disgraceful. When I was here, we had a great 4 years. We had the most successful economy in the history of our country, my first term. And we were very tough on trade and with China.
Until the COVID incident happened. Everything changed when the COVID nation attacked. And by the way, the funniest COVID update, if you go to covid.gov, it's the craziest thing in the world. This is what shows up. Literally, type in covid.gov and you get this page. Lab leak with Trump over here. The true origins. And then it talks about like all the that is the craziest thing of all time. The fact that they did this to covid.gov is insane. Oh my god, that is really, really funny. Oh my lord, it's so gangster. I don't know. Infinite ball juice. Man has such large testicles, it's crazy.
China, as you know, they paid hundreds of billions of dollars in tariffs, but nobody else ever did that. China paid not 10 cents to any other president.
China.
But not only China, virtually every country got away with murder.
I love how he's literally saying this in front of the Prime Minister of Norway. Like, and he's including that guy. They also tariffed America, you know. And he has no problem saying it because the facts are on his side. He has all the cards. Turns out he's right, and a lot of people are pussies, and they look at things incredibly narrow-mindedly. So definitely subscribe for more broad-minded retard takes where we make fun of idiots on the internet. Absolutely, we do that all the time here.
And we just can't let that happen. Thank you very much, everybody. Thank you very much.
Yeah, so anyway, that was Donald Trump spitting facts. Bro said it's not my war, and the entire internet is currently on fire. That Zelenskyy doesn't want peace, that Trump doesn't want to make peace, and realistically, it's very fun for me personally. I know that people are dying, and that's a very disrespectful thing to say, but the content is crazy. Content is insane. I want an end to this war also, to be honest. I really do. I want to see a big Trump W. But for now, thanks so much for being here. I appreciate you guys. And remember to stay weird, fam. Like, subscribe, and this video was streamed live on kick.com/Nuxanor. See you there. Stay weird, fam.